Caddis Maximus here again, this time with a review of the little Titan 12160. They call it a long handle, quarter-inch drive, 90-tooth ratchet. And since I did just review this long handle 3/8 ratchet, I picked up these little Titan quarter-inch drive impact Wobble adapter set for impact drivers. And so we're going to kind of make it a quick review and kind of do 2 for 1. These little impact drivers are part number 49003. So we'll just start off with those real fast. I'd actually done a review. It may have been included in, I'll have to look to see what review, but I did review these little Titan adapters, and they had nice laser etching and, you know, good shelves. I really liked the way these little adapters worked. And these are the long versions, so they had the short versions, And so I was really attracted to it because it's part of set building, and we have both the short and the long versions of the same tool. But I was noticing that they did not laser etch on the short ones, which was a little bit disappointing. Another thing that we can see if we look up a little bit closer here is we can see like there's a nasty burr there where it was a little bit more polished on these longer ones that were branded by Titan, so I'm suspecting they may have switched manufacturers. They just don't seem to be made quite as well. If we look at this little 3/8, I mean, they work okay, but we can see the little stop. And the idea behind that little stop and that little square is that you can use these on a socket, and you'll have the wobble. And one thing to note, a lot of issues with wobble adapters is the fact that they don't seem to work very smoothly. When you put them in a normal socket, you're kind of fighting against the spring and the ball detent. If you use these in a socket that has a through hole so that you're not having to work against the spring, these actually do work fairly smoothly and as intended. And then, of course, they have the little square so you can push them into the socket, if I can get this to cooperate. And then it turns it into a normal straight extension. And I kind of like the aspect of that, but the way the ball detent is set up, it keeps the socket in the wobbling position, so you have less likelihood of it kind of inadvertently going into the straight drive position. One thing I will say is they do have really strong springs in these detents, so the socket is definitely not going to fall off accidentally, or is much less likely. And then here's a little look at the quarter-inch one, if we can get this to focus. And it's really, the quarter-inch one came out fine, but they just didn't seem, I may have just not got a very good manufactured set. But the fact that they weren't laser etched and that they were a little bit more poorly manufactured kind of made me think they had switched suppliers on these new ones, or on these short ones. As far as the little Titan ratchet, it is made just about the same way as the super extended handle 3/8. Now this is a 12-inch long 3/8. I really like this. It is a very nice, very long, much longer than much of the competition. Let me zoom out a little bit. However, this quarter-inch, even though it is half the size, it is indeed 6 inches long, isn't as good of a value. I wouldn't recommend this one as much as I would recommend the 3/8 version, because this one doesn't really set itself apart. Besides having the nice anodized aluminum handle, they still use the steel insert in the end. It is still a steel core through most of the handle. It is a 90 tooth with one single paw. I'm not going to open this up. At the 10-minute mark, I did go look inside the ratchet head on this 3/8, and you can look at that video to see how the ratchet mechanism works. Otherwise, I mean, this does have nice quality. This is just the same. We do have a nice even grind on the head. It is quite symmetrical. Really nice looking anvil. I will say that the ball detent on this ratchet could be a little stiffer. It seemed on the 3/8 they found a nice middle ground. This one, it's good. It's definitely a solid ball detent, but I kind of like them to be a little bit stronger. Maybe not as strong as these are. These are actually really strong, but it's generally okay. So for a little 90-tooth ratchet, it is pretty nice, but one of the reasons I wouldn't recommend it as much is it is just not as long a handle. This really would have needed to be a 9-inch ratchet. Now, Snap-on has a real, I don't have one, but has a real popular, very long handle quarter-inch ratchet, and this Titan definitely is not it. Now we can compare it. We have the Duralast 36 tooth. Now this would be considered like a standard size quarter-inch straight handle sealed head ratchet, and it is indeed a bit longer, let me flip it this way, than the Duralast. And so you could say that it was extended handle in this situation. But if we take the Duralast 72 tooth, we can see that the Duralast 72 tooth is also a 6-inch ratchet. So this ratchet is would be an extended handle, but it's the same length as the Titan. Now I would say that the Titan is nicer than the Duralast 72 tooth, but it is not longer. If we compare it to the 36 tooth flex head Duralast here, we can see that it's actually just a hair shorter. Yep, those are lined up. Just a hair shorter than the flex head 1/4-inch Duralast ratchet and 36 teeth. And the 72 tooth is the same length. Now here's the Harbor Freight Pittsburgh Pro Professional. Now this doesn't have as good a ratchet pawls and ratchet mechanism, but it does work pretty well, and people have been generally satisfied for the price of these. This, as we can see, is actually significantly, almost an inch longer. Let me zoom out even further here. Almost an inch longer than this Titan. And so this, even this Harbor Freight, really is an extended handle. Although I will have to admit that the steel only goes up about this far and the rest of the length is indeed plastic handle, it's still quite a bit longer than the Titan. And if we go to a truly long handle ratchet, and one of the reasons I bought this Gear Wrench 120 tooth, we can see that the gear wrench is really long, almost 3 inches longer. This is truly a long handle, and that's kind of what I was hoping for out of this Titan, was it for it to be about the same length as this gear wrench. But instead, it just ends up being kind of what is now a standard length of ratchet, not like this 12-inch long handle, which really does fit a nice niche and really is a lot longer than many of the other ratchets out there, both flex head and non-flex head. Anyway, that was pretty much the gist of this review. Is I did pick up this little 1/4-inch and just wanted to provide that information for you guys, as well as, you know, get a little review of these shorter 1/4-inch impact rated hex wobble adapters or socket wobble adapters. I've been reading a few comments. I read one comment where somebody was ordering these 36 tooth ratchets and got 72 teeth. That would upset me a lot. I would have sent those back immediately. Just sent you the totally wrong item. Also, I saw some comments about not being able to find these ratchets in AutoZone. All the AutoZones, one actually had this ratchet, and I went to a different one which had the little ratchet. The Titan tool kiosks are not large. They have about 15 or 20 tools, and they're just the back of one of those little display islands. Sometimes they're just near the register, and it's just a little place where they have a few tools and flashlights hung up. So if you can't find the little kiosks, just ask the clerk, say, you know, where's your Titan tools? It is not some big display where they have 50 different or a whole bunch of different tiny tools. It was just like a little rack that was like 4 or 5 items wide and 4 or 5 items rows of various little Titan tools. They had these and then the little micro ratchets. Anyway, for a 1/4-inch ratchet, it's definitely pretty nice, and it is 90 teeth, and it is nicer than the Duralast 72 tooth. So I will have to admit that. If you're thinking of getting one of these two ratchets and you're at AutoZone, I would go for the Titan over the Duralast. But if you're looking for the Titan specifically to have an extra long handle 1/4-inch drive ratchet, it's not going to satisfy you. It's not really, it doesn't set itself apart. I'd say it's a good couple inches too short to really be a nice long handle. I would just say it's a little bit larger than what would be the average small compact 1/4-inch drive ratchet. And at places like CarQuest, you can get these gear wrenches, which really are truly extended handle. And even though it's a flex head, they have a real nice strong ball detent, so the flex head isn't quite as annoying to use on these gear wrenches. So I would recommend this certainly over the Titan, even though it's a few more dollars. Anyway, that was it for this video, and I really appreciate everybody watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Catus Maximus out.